Hello paddlers, got an interesting video for you here this week. As you know, we do with a lot of things around the SUP world, but one thing we don't deal with is selling kit. So we don't know how the modern shop works. But over the past few years, we've heard a lot of good feedback from you, our readers, from a UK shop called SUP Inflatables. SUP Inflatables have been around since very much the first inflatable paddleboards hit the water, and Gary and Emma have built up a lot of experience and also have a huge passion for getting their customers on the correct kit. And this, of course, is a passion very much we share as well. For this video, they paid for our time to make the journey from Cornwall in the southwest of UK to Poole on the south coast, where we went behind the scenes with the shop and let them explain how they match the right board with the right customer and much, much more. So this is a UK-based shop, but there's tons of information in this video you'll find very useful to help you understand if your local shop is giving you a good customer service, what you should expect from your local shop. We then talk about their background and why they moved into distribution as well. We also look and understand how boards are constructed and what you should be looking at as a consumer to make sure you get the best board for you. We also talk about some market trends, and we also focus on the industry pre and post pandemic. So some really interesting stuff on this video. So from myself, Will and Harry, grab yourself a drink and check out this video. So guys, give us a bit of background about SUP Inflatables.
SUP Inflatables, wow. I suppose that goes back to the early 80s when my dad bought a windsurfing shop, and then that was kind of paved my career through water sports really. Selling windsurfing, kite surfing, paddleboarding equipment, and that's really given me the passion to get people on the right size boards, the right size thickness. So we sold in paddleboards now for 11 years, inflatable paddleboards. Specialised in them for nearly 9 years, so SUP Inflatables was created 9 years ago. And it's just grown there ever since really. We now branched down to distribution, selling to other stores as well, but still get the same passion about having the right boards, the right thickness. Yeah.
You were dedicated to SUP Inflatable. You were the first really in the UK, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we're definitely the first, especially as an inflatable only. So we only do inflatables. We met Emma 6-7 years ago, top of a hill, dressed as a cockroach, yeah, more on that later. And yeah, so she's been working for me ever since, and yeah, it's good partnership in both at home and at work. So yeah.
Great. Also, I think you guys are the biggest inflatable SUP retailer in the world, actually.
I think we are very big, but I think actually our USP is not being big as in tons of boards. We're quite passionate about which board that we sell. So even though we are large and we want everybody to be to see and have the right board for them, that actually to us doesn't mean every single board on the planet.
We don't sell every brand. We pick and choose the brands we want to work with. So obviously we have Red, Starboard, Anomi, very colourful, Shark, Gladiator and Fanatic. They're our kind of core brands. We do a few Sea Lion boards as well. It's all about the material they use and what's inside, the minimum pressures, and the kind of offering a variety of boards to people, not just one size fits all.
So if somebody's actually interested in buying something off you, do you ship worldwide or is it just local to the UK? How can...
I'd say 90% of our business is definitely kind of United Kingdom, but we do ship to Europe, which is a little bit harder now, but there is ways and means of doing it. And worldwide is also possible because shipping is fairly easy. It's just working out the costings really and working out the best way to send them. And
you guys, as yourself, passionate paddlers, what's your favourite sort of paddling discipline? What do you go out and do at the weekend? What would be your...
So when we get time off, it's rivers, canals, you know, actually going on a journey rather than just turning up and going, let's go paddling and not going anywhere. Have a plan really. So paddle to the pub, paddle to a cafe, you know, there's lots of places to explore.
Gary, you SUP surf. I joke, I don't like to get my hair wet, which is maybe my passion for making sure people get on the right size boards, because that is partly to do with it. People fall off if it's on if it's something bendy.
Got to keep that passion up, haven't you? Got to keep
I think that's quite nice actually, because you're kind of doing the type of paddling that a lot of the market is doing now.
My influence has come in a little bit more than yours, I think, where Gary's comes from a windsurfing background, literally spin on a penny, and me coming in, not only being a woman, because it makes a massive difference, and part of the reason why it makes a massive difference is when we're chatting to a lot of the other retailers that we talk to, whether it be UK or Europe, I don't know why, but the demographic seems to be quite heavy men, and they genuinely they just haven't understood the need for the shorter, lighter rider.
Yeah, it's really important stuff. And again, it's clear to see the passion. This is why you guys have really, and this is why we're here, because you're more than just a shop.
Yeah.
You've been pushing a lot of the inflatable industry in directions that they needed to go in for several years.
Yeah. And
you've very much been behind that for a long time. So it's good to come up here and to explain that to everybody as well.
Yeah.
So moving on to customer journey and customer service, because we hear a lot of good things about you guys from our readers that email us about kit. They ask us about kit ourselves, we get back advising a board, then they happen to go to you guys, they get a second opinion, it's exactly the same.
Good.
They buy from you guys and then they actually send us emails saying, by the way, SUP Inflatables, really good service, really great. Yeah, so generally it's a very good thing that we hear that about you guys. Yeah. What's your basic question process that you go to make sure people get the right gear?
We find that most of the customers that we have, when some people walk in, but most people find us online, and it's online service it can be a really good thing, and I think sometimes it can be a bad thing. So we're trying to get all the good things out of an online customer service. So obviously you've got the click and buy. And that's, we try and write and offer as much information online so the customer that doesn't want to speak to us can delve in and find all that information themselves in that process. But often a lot of people do want that personal service as well. So yes, of course they can walk in, but we try our best to offer that personal service over the phone. This last 2 years, with the real understanding of thickness of a board and being able to genuinely offer each customer a different thickness in different budgets, it's really been allowed to as open ourselves up to say height of a rider equals width of a board, thickness of a board equals the weight of a rider, the amount, the performance, how far somebody wants to paddle equals the length of a board.
Yeah.
And then obviously budget. But what those 3/4 questions allows me to do is really choose a particular board out of the range.
So I think it's fair to say it's probably been very easy to sell over the last 2 years of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we've seen maybe a lot of shops selling, definitely, in fact, I'm definitely say selling the wrong product to the wrong wrong person.
Yeah.
Because then we get the email to them saying, I've been sold this. Does this sound right? I'm like, no, it doesn't sound right at all. So do you think shops this year do you think they need to change? Do you think there's a wake-up call happening? What do they need to do to?
All the way through the pandemic, we obviously were juggling stock the whole time. But it was still our passion to sell the right board to the right person. But clearly, yes, you could buy paddleboard everywhere, from supermarkets, petrol stations nearly, it just went bonkers, and people were buying them. People did seem to have a little bit of free cash as well. They felt, buoyant, and they didn't really mind buying something for £200 and it lasting a year. Now, this year, definitely, I think both us as a retailer and other retailers are being asked far more questions. So people are thinking about how they're spending their money. Are they spending it wisely? It is tougher to sell a board, but with the right boards, numbers aren't dramatically disappearing. There's a lot of kind of clearance sales of those cheaper boards where I think some people did overcommit. But with the right product and knowing what the water sports industry is like, how it goes up and downs, and every sport we've been in has been the same, you ride the storms, you stick to your guns, you believe what you believe in, and through that pandemic, I could have sold any rubbish. SUP Inflatables is such a strong name that I could have stuck any board on them, people would have believed me. But we didn't. We stuck to our guns and we said, sorry, we're sold out. That's it. You could have this brand, but that's it. We wouldn't, it's too much of a passion to ruin 11 years worth of experience on a 2-year hit of making loads of money.
Yeah, and definitely from that as well, look at the environmental impact. These boards are not environmentally friendly. No. So you're going to have to make sure they last as long as possible. And by buying into a brand that's going to last longer, like you guys won't sell a brand that's going to fall apart in a year's time. No. So you want stuff to, even your cheaper price point stuff, it has to jump through hoops to get to that level to be on your shelves.
Yeah,
online.
Yeah, definitely. We want things to last as long as possible. I think you guys sent around a question on how long does a paddleboard last, a few months ago. And it's a very difficult question to answer. But we know we've got some of our boards have been in schools for 5 years. So that's a lot of use when you take how much they use it for consumer use. So hopefully that they're going to last a long time. And secondly as well is coming back to the whole warranty problem. It's all well and good if you can offer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year warranty, but you've got to be able to back that up as well. Red with their 5-year warranty, they've got sales data. They know how much it'll cost them or how many boards will come back. They're going to be here to honour that. You know, most of the brands we sell have a 3-year warranty. And again, we know the data. You know, we'll be here in 3 years' time, and if you've got a problem with your board, that's it. But you can't buy something online that's promising a 2, 3, 4-year warranty when you don't actually know the company's history.
You guys have reached out into distribution as well as a retailer. What caused you to go down the distribution route?
Finding products at the right price, at the right materials that are available really, and giving the consumer more options of all price points. So this 4.7 inch stick, we always keep going back to that. Any brand that offers a good quality board, I will stock, and if I find them outside the UK and they don't have a distributor, I will distribute. Because I want, you know, not everyone wants to buy a Gladiator, a Starboard. Some people just want to be different. So if there's a board out there, you know, there's a new one, the Honu guys coming in now to the UK. Great, it's a fantastic board. You know, we don't stock it at the moment, but we most probably will. But someone's distributing that into the UK. It's fantastic because the more quality products there are, talking about the right materials, the more the message gets out there to everybody. It's not just me talking about it.
So your key reason was that you wanted to have more influence over creating the right product, and you could do that better as a distributor of a brand than as a pure retailer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it wasn't my starting goal, but it's developed into that by having factories who will actually listen to what I have to say, believe in the passion that I have, and they will go, well, what should we be doing next? You know, we consult on both Shark and Gladiator in a heavy way.
I think that's quite interesting because the factories that are always in China making the boards, they're quite disconnected from the consumer in paddleboarding. So they'll make paddleboards, but maybe they don't quite know what the consumer makes. So what you're doing is connecting the consumer to the factory or the brand to really help them understand what works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of customers we've spoken to over the last 2 years. I know we didn't stop talking on the phone through the pandemic, but that's all data that's in your brain, in Emma's brain, and you sit down and go, oh, there's something missing here. We don't have a board for this person. Children, you know, why are children's boards so wide? No, they need to be narrow, so we now have a range of specific children's boards because a lot more children are getting. They want to go paddling with their parents. You want them to keep up. You wouldn't stick them on a big bike, so it's that thing as well.
On the flip side of that, the sort of cynic might say, well, you're just going to sell something that you distribute because perhaps you might have a better margin on that.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that for sure. So yeah, well, I mean, 50% of the boards we have in here we distribute, but we don't distribute Red or Fanatic or Starboard, so we have a range of boards. We very much talk to you about the size board you should be on, not a brand, so you can go and digest that. And then on the distribution side, again, the stores we deal with believe in the product I've taken to them. They don't need to stock it. If they thought it was rubbish, they wouldn't, but they agree with my philosophy. A lot of them water sports backgrounds themselves, or new paddleboard stores that have understood the key values of good quality products, and they're happy to sell them because, you know, we all have that same passion. You can kind of tell most probably we all have a passion for this, and we pass this passion on, and then again we explain to the shops the same as the customer why our boards are this width, this thickness, and they go, oh, that makes sense, yeah, we'll stock those. So it's not, there's no force in it. It's too big a family. I'm too old, you know, I don't need the eyebrow. It's just get people on the right size products, and if they want to buy it from me, from one of my retailers, or someone who doesn't even, I don't have a connection with, as long as they're on the right board, that's a happy person on the water.
I suppose what part of what's been really amazing about distributing, and again it was all accidental, but it goes back to talking to different retailers. So it's allowed us to be an educator. So where the people are going into shops, whether it be physically going into a shop or like Europe, having video calls and explaining materials and thicknesses, and it's just slowly tumbleweeding where it doesn't matter if that European shop, they may have the Gladiator brand or Shark, and they'll have a ton of other products that will have nothing ever to do with, but it's one more person in the inflatable industry that actually understands what they're selling.
And I think this moves naturally on to really talking about the thicknesses and the constructions, and the constructions of the rails, which I think we should speak about now. You've got a good selection of boards here, and you obviously have done a lot of work with your brands to get these.
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't understand is really what goes in their paddleboard. They just think it's full of air, and that's it. Well, really, when you look inside a paddleboard, it's full of strands. Thousands and thousands of strands.
That's the drop stitch.
That is drop stitch, yeah. And you can tell how many drop stitches are in there by the dimples on the bottom of the board. You can see it more when the board's inflated. So the more dimples, each one of those strands creates a dimple, so that's what's going to be pulling your board into dimple shapes. You get really ones with massive space in it, low density, and you get ones that are close together, high density. So that makes your board allowed to take better pressure. But really what also allows better pressure is how you make the rails on your boards. So if you take a board that's 32 inches wide and cut the material 32 inches wide on the top and bottom, you're literally sticking a piece of PVC, 1 or 2 layers in some cases, sometimes 3, around that rail. So you've got all those strands stopping that 15 to 20 psi going outwards. You have nothing stopping the rail going out. So that's your weakest point. The weakest point of a paddleboard is its rail.
Where the glue is, where the rail
Well,
is
just because
bonded.
there's nothing holding it in. So you've got thousands of strands stopping this going to a balloon shape. It's got nothing stopping it out here apart from the glue. So really cheap brands, 32 inches wide. Let's cut the material at 32 inches because that is the most expensive part of a paddleboard. So the premium brands you'll find, well, there's two really ways of making a paddleboard. Is like you've got a premium double rail on the bottom board here. So the top and bottom sheet are cut wider than the board. The material comes round, they leave about 1 inch gap, and then 2 layers of PVC are stuck on the outside. So you've got about a 1 inch gap where there's a bit more pressure. You've no longer got 6 inch gap. Then your premium brands like Red, Gladiator here, they have a triple rail. So the top and bottom material come round and meet in the middle, and then 2 layers are put on top. So now you have a very, very little point where the board is not made of a structure. You don't have a 6 inch gap anymore where the board can move around. A slightly different way Fanatic use on their premium boards, Shark use it on this board here. You have, it's a double rail, but you've then added this third bead on. So again, you've made an extra seal.
Which is this orange strip
orange
here.
bead here. So it's this board with an additional bead put on here basically. So again, it just adds another layer to the rail to add triple rail, triple rail, triple rail. That's what we call them because they've all at some point got triple layers on there. Easy to identify because you have an extra bead or you have this nice C-shaped curve as Emma's nicknamed it, not a square slab. So the more the boards are just basically cut basic, they basically just have a big stuck on side. It tends to be a bit square, no shape. And then as you guys discovered, that also makes a refined nose. By having this, when you have, even on a basic, premium double layer, you still have a lot more of a blunt nose. Blunt nose on the, so this way of making a triple. When you go to the top and bottom layers meeting, it's a lot more pointed, so it flows through the water better.
Much better performance.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been great to see. It's also been great to hear because you guys have been pushing so much to get this and understand this, like you were saying earlier, from your brands, understand what goes into making these boards. And definitely now in the future, we're seeing a lot of our readers that are really trying to work out and ask the questions and why you put your money into top end brands.
But you really have to look at the board you're buying because unfortunately there are brands, there's 3 brands this year using the word triple layer, and when you ask them what it is, they say, oh, we're sticking 3 layers of material on the outside. It's completely rubbish. They don't stick in 3 layers because you can see every time a layer finishes, there's a step. It's obvious. So if there's suddenly 3 layers, one of them's going to be double thickness or whatever. There's brands just taking words because they've heard them by someone else and they go, oh, we need to now have a triple rail. I don't know what it is, but we're using our marketing. So it's not just about believing what it's looking at the product. Go and visit your local shop, phone us up, fantastic. Look at it when you unpack it. What is the rail construction? Inflate it, send me a picture, say, Gary, what's this? I think you did it once. It's just, I'm honest, I don't want to. If someone's made a board and it says what it is on the tin, I'll tell you. But if they're claiming something differently, I'll also be as honest because our industry isn't.
And just to ask another question because you're a very good man to answer it. Heat welded rails, glued seams, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What is your take on it and what is
So
the
as
difference?
far as I know, it's only Starboard that heat weld their rails. It's a very precise process. There are lots of brands claiming, well, they say heat welded, and sometimes they're just putting that in talking about the fusion drop stitch.
Yeah.
But when you bond 2 layers of PVC together, it's quite messy. It melts them together, so you got a very weird, waggly line. And that's why they then put the second layer of material over the top to make it look nice. Now, I don't know many factories that actually, or don't know any apart from the Starboard guys, who weld their rails. Everyone else is bonding with, good quality glue. And again, you can get many, many different layers of PVC glue.
So now let's talk about aftercare and customer service.
Yeah.
What should a shop be doing? What do you guys do if there's any problems with a paddleboard or stuff that might come up after people have bought a paddleboard?
I think the main reason why we've kind of kept a mobile rather than having like a landline at the business is quick customer care. So obviously it allows you to quickly answer the phone to somebody who wants a paddleboard, but it also allows you to answer the phone whilst we're paddleboarding too, or out on the bike, so this, that and the
Like
other
that.
on a weekend.
Selling paddleboards on a paddleboard.
Yeah, and somebody rings up and they go, my pump's not working.
Yeah.
Or I haven't got a nut and bolt for my fin. And so the main queries we have about potentially what's deemed as a faulty product, it's not. So I would say the biggest aftercare call we get is my pump is broken, it's not inflating my board, the gauge isn't working. And I don't think we've ever not had it actually, where it's not the gauge not working, it's quite a simple product, it's not like electric or anything like that. The way the gauge works is by air feeding from the board. So all I can guess is customers, obviously most of them have never inflated a board before, they've hired or something. They started pumping and do what I call the pinch test, and because the board is feeling hard, then they think that's enough air in it.
Yeah.
And then they think the gauge is broken, so they ring up and say, oh, my gauge is broken. You go, no, carry on pumping. And we've got a little video that we send to them, which is basically allowing them, they put the hand over the front of the pump where the hole is, where the hose goes in, and then they push the handle down. They go, oh, yeah, gauge is definitely working.
So that's a good thing, actually. We could show a clip of that. Instant pump test.
Yeah.
For other people who haven't bought one of your boards, haven't bought a board off you, what should they expect from a shop? Let's say my deck pads started peeling up. Is that a warranty problem, or is that something that somebody should deal with?
It's something that they need to do something about, maybe, because it doesn't look very nice, but it's very, very quick solution. It's some glue popped in, and normally when it's a deck pad peel, it's quite small anyway. So you know, lollipop, toothpick, something like that, bit of glue, pop it down. If it's a little bit bigger, again, pop it down, maybe a book on top overnight, but it's a really, really quick fix.
So it shouldn't be something that somebody should expect to get a brand new board, because this is that maybe we get an email saying, "Oh, they didn't give me a new board because," but then
it's not.
From an environmental point of view, and for a lot of people's time, there's a lot of effort. The board's completely fine.
We're very lucky. Most of our customers, if not all, see that a bit of deck pad peel. They ring up to gain advice. But no, they don't expect a new board for that. And then some of them, depending on where they are or their capabilities, most are happy to do it themselves. But if they're not, obviously the board comes back and we'll do it for them. Some people are just really worried that they're going to break something or something like that if they're going to do it themselves. But again, you know, often a little video goes out explaining how to do it, and most people are really super happy with that, because you know you want to get out on your board anyway. So if you've noticed your deck pad's peeling and somebody explains that absolutely no problem, it's not going to affect your warranty in any way, and all you need to do is pop a bit of glue on it, and then you can go out paddleboarding the next day, then that's a bigger solution, or a much easier solution was, you know, waiting for a courier to come in, pick it up, send it back, somebody doing it for you, and you know, going back again. The thing is, again, you know, Gary mentioned, I think we're really fussy about which brands we deal with. And part of the reason we're really, really fussy about which brands we deal with is because actually the customer does deserve a warranty process. You know, often a warranty process is customer care when it comes to, you know, a valve leaking, or is there a nut and bolt, or my pump's broken, and there's loads of customer care issues. It's not a warranty, but when it's genuinely a warranty, it should be sorted out. And that's why there is a duty of care to understand how those boards are being brought into, in our world, into the UK or whichever country you're in. And there's an understanding, what is that distributor doing to take care of those retailers. So when we're looking at bringing a new board in that we're, you know, not distributing like Red or Shark or Fanatic or whoever it is, they don't like me very much for it, but I ask them how are they going to deal with their warranties? And if they don't have an answer to that, we don't sell it.
There you go. Yeah. It's quite clear to see when we've looked at some of the Gladiator stuff in the repair kit. There's an Allen key to tighten up your paddle. Yeah. There's a spare fin bolt. Yeah. And that's the first time I've ever seen that, because you accept that, you're going to lose it. Yeah. Let's just put another one in there now. Yeah. And it's another very quick customer. Yeah. Well,
it's funny enough, it's mainly the customers, the Gladiators. We can't win whichever way. So often boards come in with a nut and bolt on the fin. Yeah. But if it comes on the fin, then it can unscrew on its way from. So they put them in they put two in the maintenance kit, one to use and a spare one. And then the customer rings up saying, I don't have nut and bolt. Yeah, it's in the maintenance kit. But
That just really shows that, you know, you've thought about the complete aftercare.
Yeah,
you're trying to stop people from having those problems before they even start.
Yeah, and even, you know, even brands that haven't necessarily thought about it, again, I think it's a little bit back down to customers having the ability to think about it. So when we go out on group paddles, the people that are running those paddles, I try and explain to them that it's actually their job as well to have paddle maintenance with them and fins, spare fins, but also encourage the people that are paddling, because obviously they're not newbies, to have those things with them as well. Because you can go out on these long paddles, and the amount of times you see people with no paddle maintenance and no extra fin, and you wouldn't go out on a mountain bike or a long bike ride and not have
a pump or
in tube
tyre levers.
Yeah.
It's very true,
Yeah.
So now let's talk about market trends and what's been selling well for the last 2 years and maybe what's going to sell well into the future.
Okay, well, the all-round shape is always what everyone defaults to. The 10'6", 10'8". We've always talked about 475, obviously the 6-inch boards made from premium material for heavier riders. So your 10'6" and your 10'8" market in your all-round, it's always going to be a good seller. And then really from there, a lot of people always used to jump all the way to this end of the spectrum, to the touring boards,
side.
because they're 12'6" long, and they were predominantly always used to be 6 inches thick because materials weren't available. But really that's the two areas that are expanding really. One is on touring boards, so we now have thinner touring boards for lighter riders. And then also, because paddleboarding now goes from 4 foot to 6'7", 45 kilos, 40 kilos to 150 kilos, we've had to look after a massive spectrum. So it's the same at the other end. We now have a 34-inch wide touring board that a big heavy guy is going to be able to paddle the same as a small person on a thinner board or medium person on a standard size. So that's expanded the range of boards and the touring. But what's quite exciting, and not many brands really do it, there's Gladiator, Red Palico, Shark, is this kind of in-between kind of range here, what we coined as performance all-round.
Yeah.
What it really allows you to do is you've taken the standard dimensions from your 10'6" and your 10'8". You haven't changed anything on the width or the thickness, so they're still getting the same stability, same volume, but by extending the lines of the board and making them pointed, you've basically just given them something that's a little bit better in a straight line. It's not so weavy, but it's not 12'6" long, which is very daunting for your first board. So it's just performance all round. And that's quite an exciting kind of development, because that's where I see the biggest growth, because the brands that can do that have to be using the right materials. So it stops people thinking, oh, go and buy that in a cheap brand, because they will just bend far too badly. So if you understand the advantages of that, there's very few disadvantages, because it's not much harder to turn, then you will end up on a premium product 90% of the time. There's a few people trying it. Because what we really try to avoid, and you'll see in some of the really cheap brands, is having a 10'6" board that's pointed. Because what makes a board go in a straight line really is the rails.
The parallel rails.
Now if you make that pointed, you instantly put more curve into the rail. So by having a short board pointed, great for surf, rubbish for going in a straight line. So that's why we add the point on in these boards, to make them a pointed.
We recommend if you're looking more surfy stuff, you want to do a bit of surf, then it's always a 10'6". Otherwise, you're moving on to the 11-foot sizes, and that's why we're doing this test as a test in the SUP Pro. We've got these sizes because it's a key, so people could enter the sport into these sizes now. They can skip this 10'6", 10'4", 10'5" size. And
there's also there's certain information online. You can't beat speaking to a retailer who knows what they're talking about, because on all these boards we have specific kind of weight ratios and height guidelines. But of course, there's some people who are really good balance, and just, you know, there's no reason why a heavy guy wouldn't use this 10'2". But online it says it's designed for a shorter, lighter rider. Because a clicker by customer, we wouldn't someone of 6'7" and 140 kilos buying it. It's just not going to suit him. But if he goes, oh, actually I really want it for surfing, then of course, you can buy a small board. You know it's going to sit low in the water because you've got the ability to use it. So there's pigeonholes for every board, but you can also step outside of those if you know specifically what you're looking for.
Have you got anything to add?
So this is, I like go paddleboarding.
Which
you're going to put the dog on the front,
which size?
Actually, that's very key actually.
That is key.
Because
so dogs,
people say, oh, I want a big paddleboard because I'm going to put my dog on it. When we talk about the weight a paddleboard can take of a rider, it is the rider's weight standing next to the handle. You're unlikely, if you're going to put a beer, a dog, a child, anyone on the front, that's carrying capacity. If you put all that weight on your shoulders, clearly it puts more through your feet. People get very confused. Like cheaper brands going, oh, they take 150 kilos.
Yeah, that's a
They
big
will
confu-
bend
yeah.
like a banana. If that 150 kilo person lays down, it will be fine. So they get away with it because the volume will take that weight. It just doesn't take it standing up.
That's a
So
very,
yeah,
very
carrying
good point.
capacity and rider weight are two completely different things.
What do you think the best developments have been over the last couple of years? Talk about different types of boards, but any standout developments on the boards?
Packages have been getting better. Quality of products have been getting better in certain lines. The difficulty really, I suppose, in the last few years is there's been a lot of just pop-up brands that haven't been doing a very good job. So there's brands that are using the correct materials, which were always using correct materials,
Yeah.
but people just didn't know they were using them. We've had to market in a completely different way now. So, you know, machine weave is lighter. You know, there's very few disadvantages to that. And possibly if a really light rider's on it, it does feel a little bit more voluminous because the whole package is lighter. But having a board that's easier to carry, you know, good quality components, you know, universal components, everything that can go there. Kind of future developments, you know, there is things in the pipeline, but that's a kill you. So, you know, I can't tell you any of that.
Nothing you can tell us?
Nothing I
No?
can tell you, no, you know. Helium-filled paddleboards, maybe, I don't know. We'll go along that way.
That doesn't work,
No,
does
it
it?
doesn't work. The biggest development has been in offering more sizes to more people.
Okay, and what about anything from the environmental side? More, obviously the packaging's got better. We've
Yeah.
noticed that. We've
Yeah.
been pushing on that. Do you think there's anything with materials or stuff that's going in and on the boards that can change, be better for the environment in the future?
Just good quality. If it's good
Yeah, I
quality,
mean-
it lasts. The most environmental products is when you don't have to throw away.
That is true, yeah.
You know, I don't know. There is, like I said, everyone's trying to reduce the paper, the cardboard. Unfortunately, we've always got to ship them from China. You know, maybe we can make them in the UK, but I don't think that's going to be possible.
Yeah.
You know, it's just buying quality so it lasts, really. And yes, everyone's always looking for different materials. I certainly know the owner of Gladiator's always looking for new materials, always speaking to drop stitch manufacturers, EVA. If something comes available, you know, no one's really going to be making their own. It's got to kind of, you know, a paddleboard is made of many different components made by other companies already. They're not manufacturing the EVA, that's been around for years. So if those companies come up with a more environmentally friendly product that is water sustainable and will work, then
That's tried and
brands will
tested,
start to
that's
use
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true. And I think that's a good thing for a lot of people. They need to buy into a product that's going to last now.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you know you're going to be more committed to SUP, like, you know, you're going to do it more than 5 times a year, spend a little bit more, get a better product, it's going to last longer, better for the environment, you'll enjoy it more.
You don't
get
have
more
to
out of
spend a bit more though, don't forget. It's not about price all the time.
It's not about price all
No,
the
but
time.
prices can throw people off.
Yeah, you're right.
When you have
There's-
a good board at a £400 price point, people don't expect it to be as good as a £700 board when some £700 boards are nowhere near a £400 board. Right, let's take you for a little guided tour of the warehouse on the way out for a paddle. So this is our main office. See you later, Helen. Have a good weekend. That's where we pack all our bits and pieces, or orders I should say. Just grab a paddle on the way out so we don't forget. So down that side you've got boards and you've got supwear really, and down the middle paddles, dry robes, boots, accessories. I need a waist leash, PFD, paddleboard cleaner, more dry robes, red original robes, all the red accessories from dog buoyant shades to air belts, hoses for your pumps. Round the corner, it's kind of a little bit of a dumping corner in there for old hours rig there for windsupping, pumps, and then this is all the leashes. So we'll grab another leash, more stocks of boards. Oh, we need a fin, run that hands. And then you've got buoyant shades from Baltic, and we've got a few more boards down the end, and then kind of duplicate stock up above. So yeah, all mezzanine up. That's where I'm going to drop something. Take that there. So we'll go down the back stairs. Always got to have a fire escape. Get out. So another little dumping corner for old pump spares. Always keep all the pump spares we normally have, just so we can break them down so it's environmentally friendly. Just replace the bits rather than the whole pump. Squeeze through the stock. Automatic lights, which is good for the environment. Stops staff leaving all the lights on when they go home. More stock of Anomis, reds on this side. Past the shark boards and the Gladiators over there. Kitchens, toilets, and back out. Oh, need to grab a board today. Let's just grab the 11.4. It's nice and good for the river, easy to turn around, and nice and manoeuvrable. So that's it. Yeah, so we've got about a 200 metre walk, maybe 300 metres down to the river, just down here.
So there we go, really hope you enjoyed this video and gives you an understanding of what an established shop and distributor does. Remember, use a lot of this information in this video to think of what your local shops are like, and please let us know if you have any good, bad experiences with your local shops as well. If you like this type of video and different content, please let us know, but until next time, we'll see you on another SUP Baller video real soon.
Ruben's getting hilarious.
What?